Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Elé de Posson. Eleonore is a spiritual teacher, intuitive business mentor, healer, speaker, and author. She helps women, entrepreneurs, leaders, and way showers run their businesses and lives from their feminine energy so that they can magnetize more wealth, alignment, and flow while impacting humanity in their own unique ways. Her gifts are depth, wisdom, and practical leadership. And with these, she leads her clients to have a soul-led business and life. Today, we talk about stepping out of our masculine and working more with our feminine in this driving dog-eat-dog world where all of the qualities are called upon, because generally you have both qualities, masculine and feminine. But how to know when you're stepping in your masculine energy or when you're leading with your feminine energy was eye-opening. And what feminine energy is, Ellie goes over all of the ways to know when you're in your feminine, how to be in your feminine more often and nurture your feminine and show up with your intuition, and which is, like we were saying, a internal guiding system, how to lean into your intuition, which is entirely feminine for the most part, and just embrace your femininity instead of stepping away from it as we have so much in the last few eras. So I hope you guys really enjoy this. Let me know what you think of this episode. It's a little bit different than anything I've ever done, and what your takeaways were. I love to hear from you. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode. I am so excited to welcome Elé de Posson to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda. I'm excited to be having this conversation with you.
Wow, this is such a great topic today, because I know I have so many moms and entrepreneurs, and we're all in the upswing of the up and coming and the modern way of doing things, which is a lot different from the days that of the cave woman, the caveman, where we were living by primal instinct alone. And perhaps you were cooking up the meat and the caveman was going out and getting the meat. And now we're all vegans and vegetarians. No. But what I'm saying in essence is we're going to get in touch with our feminine side today and see the power and the beauty in what that can bring to our lives and to the lives of others. And so, Ellie, how did you ever write this book all about femininity? What kind of space were you in that brought you to this point?
So I launched my business in the coaching and healing industry more than 4 years ago now. And I created this first method to help women heal from trauma through the power of self-love. It's called the self-healing spiral. And so when I created the self-healing spiral, it was for myself first. I was actually healing myself from a divorce. I was married for 6 months, didn't work really well. And so I really had a lot to heal from that, and really my whole life, and also understanding what led me to experiencing that.
Right.
And so I felt that it was my purpose. I really had a long-term vision, and I was teaching this method to women, but also to coaches and healers and therapists who are using that method with their clients. And I had this very long-term vision of one day having a foundation and then teaching that method in schools to kids, so that kids can also know how to welcome their emotions, rewire their beliefs, and really love themselves. Because I truly believe that if all the kids of today's world love themselves and are healed kids, I mean, tomorrow's world is going to be very different, right? So that was really my vision. And I started feeling more and more misaligned, more and more tired, and like something wasn't working. What wasn't working now, in hindsight, I can look at it, is that I was in my masculine. I was so driven by my purpose and that mission that I was waking up, working 9 to 5, doing. The truth is that behind all of this energy that I was putting towards my goal was actually the need to prove myself. The need to prove myself, the need to be safe, the need to show the world, my family, my friends, that I could do it and that I was successful. So it all came from a place of lack, a place of neediness, and a place of not really realizing my worth. And so one day, I decided I was going to surrender and I was going to let go. And if that was the mission that my soul wanted me to do, and that was my purpose, then it was just going to unfold. Interestingly, as soon as I stopped to control everything, everything fell into pieces. And all my clients, I had a lot of clients, I was really busy. Suddenly, no one signed up, like nothing really happened. And so I had a lot of open space. And I started learning about the divine feminine. And I realized that I had been living in my masculine all my life. There's this story in the book that I share where even when I was like a teenager with my friends, we were always saying, on n'est pas des filles, we are not girls. We were like proud to be more like men. And we really rejected the feminine because we thought that being a woman, being in your feminine energy really meant wearing a lot of makeup, being a housewife, being hysterical, emotional, and a little bit stupid. I mean, we really had a huge patriarchal brainwash there. This is not the feminine at all. And so I went on a journey of rediscovering what the feminine is. And I did an information detox because I really wanted to reconnect with my intuition, my creativity, my own purpose. And so for 30 days, I deleted social media. I didn't read any book, didn't watch any TV, didn't read anything, didn't listen to any podcasts, really to limit to the maximum all the information that we are taking in. And we are taking in so much information every day.
Right.
And all that space then allowed me to reconnect to myself.
Of course.
And during these 30 days, at some point in a meditation, I received really clear guidance that I needed to write a book about the divine feminine. And so I was like, all right, thank you. But just at the beginning of my journey, like, why do you want me to write a book about that? And so in very feminine fashion, feminine is all about embodiment, life put a lot of experiences on my path so that I could really understand, not just intellectually, but really embody what the feminine is. And so I got to understand what it is to be really authentic, what it is to be connected to your intuition, how you can activate your own magnetism, how you can surrender, how you can open yourself to receiving and really be grounded in your body, in your sensuality, in your sexuality, and how all these gifts of the feminine, once they are activated, really leads to being in your power, being in your purpose, experiencing much more flow and much more money.
How can we tell when we're in the masculine? What are some tips and some signs of being in the masculine?
Okay, I love that question because everything starts with awareness, right? So you got to know, okay, when am I in my feminine? When am I in my masculine, right?
Yeah, because we have
So
both sides, right?
yeah, and we need both sides. The idea really is to create this sacred union between these two. But because we live in a world that is so masculine, we need to come back to our feminine. And because everything starts with the feminine, we need to come back to our feminine, embody her, and then we can call in the sacred warrior, the divine masculine, and create sacred union between these two. So the masculine really is that part of yourself that is taking action. It's the structure, it's the provider, the protector. It's that part of yourself that is going to set goals and then push for it, take action, even nurturing others and taking care of others and coaching. Like right now, the two of us, Linda, we are in our masculine because we're giving. It's
Oh,
that
so
very,
masculine is giving?
yeah.
Oh, I thought that would be feminine.
No,
Okay.
masculine is giving.
Okay.
Feminine, it's all about being, reflecting, daydreaming, moving with your intuition, creating, birthing life, the feminine. And it's receiving. So when you are in your
Oh,
feminine,
okay.
you receive. And so this is very important for women entrepreneurs and women in general, because we are so good at giving, giving, giving. But we're not so good at receiving, even a compliment.
I was just right. Actually, that was just going through my mind when you said receiving. I see that being a problem for so many, asking for help, only giving, not asking for help, only giving, and being unable to receive or closed off to receiving.
Yeah. So there is a universal law, and it's a law of nature as well. It's called the law of exchange. And you can also apply that to money, actually, and you can apply that to everything. It's just one of the laws of that the universe functions with. And so it's the idea that whenever you give to someone, that person is receiving. And so you need to allow that flow to move through you. So when a person is giving something to you, you need to open yourself to receiving. Because if every person was giving, 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 but the other is not receiving, you are slowly stopping the flow of life. And that ultimately leads to destruction and death. So when you're not allowing yourself to receive, you're blocking the flow of life. And life needs to work through you because life is using you for yourself and also for others. We are all there to support each other, and we're all there connected to each other as well and impacting each other. So it is definitely something that I'm seeing a lot in my clients and in a lot of women. We struggle to receive because deep down, we think we don't deserve it or we're not worthy of it. The truth is that when you learn to receive something as simple as a compliment, you actually honor the other person for giving to you. And you
Oh,
allow that flow of
absolutely.
life to
So
work.
much. And I find it when you're saying, if you're late and you're saying, I'm sorry I was late, versus saying, thank you for waiting. It's like when you say to the person, thank you so much for waiting, that's a gift because you're thanking them instead of the opposite of apologies.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just that giving, and then they're like being open to the receiving. We really need to work on that part of it, I think, because I just think women, well, we nurture, we give, even if that is masculine. I just see most of my women friends always giving, and the receiving end is very, very hard. What are some tips on opening ourselves up so that we can receive from others?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question. But before answering that question, I want to emphasize how important it is to receive, because when you're giving, 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 you're always in that masculine energy. And so the masculine energy, it's warm energy. It's connected to the day, it's connected to the sun as well. Whereas feminine energy is cold energy. It's connected to the night and the moon. And so if you always give, if you're always in your masculine, you're always in that warm energy, which is slowly going to burn you out.
Yeah, if you're always giving.
Even our language knows about it, that the warm giving energy is going to burn you out physically and emotionally. So you really need to go back into your feminine to do the balance and create that sacred union between these two. And every time you are in your feminine, you open yourself to receiving. So how to do that? Well, you can start with compliments, because compliments, it's love. And if you, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So if you open yourself to receiving compliments, you're going to open yourself to receiving more support, more money, more clients, more opportunities. So I realized myself that I wasn't always very good at receiving. I remember one day I was on a call with a client and she said to me, "Oh, you look beautiful today." And I had put on a nice dress and some red lipstick. And so instead of saying thank you, I said, "Oh yeah, I felt like putting on some lipstick. I bought it this weekend. It comes from this store, da, da, da." And I went to do a whole story of like this lipstick. And she looked at me, okay. And so I realized, of course, when I was talking, that I was deflecting her compliments and I was
Yeah.
giving her a lot of information she didn't ask for. And so I went to my husband and I said, "Honey, can you give me 3 compliments a day for the next week? And I'm just going to say thank you." And he was like, "Okay, sure, I'm happy to support you. And that's easy to give you compliments, because he's my husband. So, of course, he loves me. So it's easy for him to do that. And men really like it when we give them missions like that. And they are our heroes and they support us." So he was definitely on board. And for me, it really helped me to not to respond anything and just to say, "Thank you so much. I fully receive this." And it was really hard at first. I felt really uncomfortable and I would laugh, etc. And then it just became a new normal. So I really rewired it just by practicing to just say thank you when I received a compliment. And the interesting thing that happened is that after that, every time I would go out simply like to buy groceries or for a walk here in the forest, people would compliment me on my outfit. So I was like, that's so funny. I've opened myself to receiving compliments. And now I'm receiving compliments from strangers about my earrings, my dress, my jacket, my beanie, like that never happened before. And so start with compliments, because it's very important for women to open themselves to receiving, and especially women entrepreneurs. Because if you have a business, it's because you want to serve, right? You want to help others and you also want to make money from it, right?
Yes.
So if you're always in your masculine and you're always giving, giving, giving and doing and showing up and teaching, then your clients are in their feminine receiving, because it's always a balance and it's always that love exchange. When you are giving, the others are receiving. So if you're launching a program or a book or a podcast and you want people to sign up, to pay, to listen to you, to work with you, you actually need to move in your feminine so that they can take action and sign up and pay you and send you that money. You need to move in your feminine energy by resting, having a bath, going for a walk, taking time for yourself, reflecting, really nurturing your own feminine energy. Because when you nurture your feminine energy, you actually receive. So there's always that cliche of the woman that's on the beach making $100,000, and that's kind of the dream, right? Well, once you understand how energy works and how the universe works, it actually makes complete sense, because she's enjoying herself, she's relaxing, so she's in her feminine energy, and her audience, her clients and opportunities can then take the masculine role and take action and send her money.
That's very interesting, the ebb and flow of all of that energy. And it's interesting to me that the giving was masculine. That was very interesting, but it does lead to burnout if you give and you never receive.
Yeah.
So that would be why a lot of women are running around tired and exhausted,
Yeah,
because they've cut off the receiving.
exactly. And so they give from an empty tank, and that warm energy is really physically burning them out, and emotionally and mentally and spiritually, like all the aspects. And so then how do you take care of your feminine energy, right? To really create that balance. It's really sometimes what I do at the end of the day when I've just been teaching and coaching and doing podcasts all day. I just lay down. I go to my living room. We have this very soft carpet and we have a fireplace. And I just lay down on the floor in front of the fireplace for like 30 minutes, listening to music, not doing anything. And it recharges me. It brings in that cold energy from the feminine, which is just not doing much, and it really recharges me. Something that is also very feminine, it's everything that is connected to the body. So singing,
Oh
dancing,
yeah, little girls
moving.
are singing and dancing when they're having their little slumber parties or just playing in general.
Yeah.
So I so see what you're saying.
And also so singing, dancing, but really just being with yourself. So the masculine is very outward and the feminine is really inward. So every activity that you can do when you go and look inside, even welcoming your emotions, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to connect with your emotions and seeing them for the messengers that they are and listening to the messages that they have for you, that's a very feminine activity. We've all been told, oh, you're too emotional, right? Well, we're not too emotional. We're just in our feminine energy.
Sometimes we're not emotional enough because we have
Push
learned that
it
we need
down.
to cut those emotions off.
Yeah.
So I
Because,
think it's good that you're saying allow yourself to feel all the feels and to have the emotions. And if you feel sad, feel sad. If you're feeling angry, feel angry. But like getting in touch with what those feelings are about,
oh,
feeling
yeah.
something is not wrong.
Oh, yeah, please do. And that's because we live in a society that is so masculine that it has cut off the emotions, the intuition, the sensitivity, the not doing anything. We really have been criticizing and rejecting the feminine for so long. But because everything starts with the feminine, we find ourselves desperately needing to call her back in. And everything starts with the feminine because, like I said, the masculine is the day, the feminine is the night. Every day starts at midnight when it's the feminine. Every man comes from the womb of a mother, which is the feminine. And when you are in your feminine, the feminine is the leader because the feminine is the one that has the vision that's connected to her soul, to her intuition. The feminine is the one that has all the desires. And then the masculine is going to take action and do. But if you're only in your masculine, the things that you're going to do and the desires that you're going to have are not really going to be aligned with who you are and with your authentic self, which is going to feel very misaligned and really burn you out. So if you come back to your feminine and you spend that time inwards and you reconnect with your intuition, you activate your intuition, you connect with these soul's desires, and then you call in the masculine to do what's aligned for you, then boom, it's the sacred union and prosperity is just knocking at your door.
So that led to my next set of questions. As an entrepreneur, because of the way that I was raised, I think, and just the era, um, I think that I had misconceptions about the woman's role. So when I was out of the woman's like supposed role, uh, I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to be like a man. And it was like in my head that, oh gosh, if I'm bossing all these men and all these people, that's more like a man's role. Of course, I stepped into it anyway, but I'm just saying, like, I think that a lot of the times women can steer away from something for those reasons. Why or should we not steer away from those things? And how can we really make maybe traditionally what was a man's role as a woman, bring our femininity to it?
I think there is nothing that we should and should not do. And I don't want to give you like an answer that is going to fit all, because that's not really how it works. I think we are really just invited, and my invitation here is for you to come back to yourself and come back to your authentic self and ask yourself, am I doing this here because I think I have to do it and that's how I need to show up? Or is this really me and what I'm truly desiring and excited to do? Am I running this business in a way that I've been told to run it because that's what I should be doing? Or am I running it from a place of, I know I'm magnetizing the right clients to me by just being myself? So the divine feminine, she's very, very authentic. And
What's
she
that word
actually
again?
she's very authentic.
Authentic. Okay.
And she has very strong boundaries. You know, you were talking about, oh, sometimes I can be like a man and I can be bussing around. Well, the feminine, she can have a dark side, but she's very strong. She's very connected to her power. You don't mess with the divine feminine. And that's because she knows her power. She knows who she is. And so there is something that I call the wounded feminine. And every woman on earth has some of that wounded feminine energy and characteristics. Because even if you've worked on yourself a lot and you've healed yourself a lot, the collective and our history is so imprinted by it that you could still be touched by it. So the wounded feminine is really that part of yourself that is going to negate herself in order to fit in order to be loved, in order to feel at one again. So feminine energy is all about being one, being in community, being together. Masculine energy is much more individualistic. We live in a world that is very individualistic, very masculine, but we are now calling back the feminine in. Even when you look at astrology, we've been living in the age of Pisces for 2000 years, the masculine. We just moved into the age of Aquarius, the feminine. So it's even written in the stars that we are going back to the feminine. And so that feminine that is craving that oneness, because we have felt a sense of separation when we were born and taken away from the womb of our mother, we are always going to try to feel at one again with a sister, with a partner, and with our kids, with our clients, with other human beings. And so quite often we are going to negate ourselves in order to feel that connection. And so how does that show up? By saying yes to certain things where you actually mean no, by people pleasing, by not having strong boundaries, by being afraid to speak your truth, by being afraid of sharing some of your talents, some of your experiences, because you don't want others to judge you or to say that you're too weird, too noisy, too emotional, too something. And I mean, we've all done it, and we've all been called too much at some point in our life. And so we dimmed our light. We made ourselves small. And so once you start working through that and you stop hiding, you stop keeping your mouth shut, you just start to speak your truth. You start to listen to your intuition. You start to express all of who you are, the weird, the crazy, the artistic, the bossy. You just own who you are. Then you can be in your most authentic self. And that's when you align with your purpose and really who you came here to be.
I liked what you said about there not what you should, not shooting yourself to death, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know what that sounds like. But when we as women, sometimes I think we do look at roles just because, well, first of all, I'm in the Midwest. So that was just ingrained, I think, in just my growing up, that, you know, but I see it as a man can be a chef, a woman can be a chef, a man can be a hairdresser, a woman can be a hairdresser. Isn't it really more about like you said, living in your purpose and showing up in your feminine energy instead of your masculine energy when you're doing a job, whatever that is. Now, we can show up as both though. So how do we know when to be what?
Yeah. So we want to show up in both energies. And when you're working, when you're leading, you're in your masculine, for sure. And so the invitation is to just be aware of, okay, I just woke up, prepared breakfast, made lunch for the kids so that they can have food at school. And then I took care of myself for 10 minutes, quickly, getting dressed, putting makeup on. And then I started working. And now it's 6 p.m. and I need to prepare dinner for the kids and then do the laundry and then and then have a chat with my husband to see how he's doing. And then maybe read a book and go to bed. If that's your typical day, you're 90% of your day in your masculine. So just by having that awareness, you can be like, okay, I kind of want the balance to be more 50-50. So I have some work to do here. How can I take more time for myself in the morning? And it's really about creating time to nourish yourself and nourish your feminine energy. So you can do that by reading a book in a bath, going for a walk, doing some yin yoga. You know, even in yoga, you have hatha yoga, which is masculine, yin yoga, which is really feminine, because yin is feminine energy and yang is masculine energy. That's the traditional meanings of these words. And so create space to invite the feminine in. And when you have a bit of that space, there is nothing much to do. It's really more about being and going inward. And going inward means connecting with what's happening inside of me. And the more you actually connect with what's happening inside of you by reading a book, going for a walk, having a bath, doing a meditation, singing, dancing, playing, having fun, the more you're going to be able to hear your authentic self, hear your higher self and your soul guide you, give you some directions. And the more you slow down, the more you're also going to help Spirit, God, the universe, call it the way you want, to actually guide you, because you're co-creating your life with that higher intelligence. And if you're always doing and in control, there is no space for that higher intelligence to guide you. So when you slow down, the universe speeds up and can take over and can support you, your life, your business, your family, your finances, your relationships, your health, all of that. And so it really starts with having awareness. And then if you are 90% of the time in your masculine, asking yourself, how can I bring myself back into my feminine? How can I be more and do less? How can I feel more instead of give? How can I receive more? And really sitting with these questions. And if you really want to take that seriously and do it, I would then, of course, invite you to read my book, The Path of Femininity, because I have 15 exercises in this book that really help you integrate the feminine into your life. Because knowledge is great, but if you just listen to this podcast and then switch to the next one, it is not going to change your life. It's just going to be information that stays in the mind, and that doesn't do much. We really want to integrate this knowledge into your life, because it leads to more health, more success, more money, more happiness, etc.
So we as women, we have intuition, and I think mine is so sharp. I could like slice a pea in half with it, like something very small. There's times that I just have this knowing, and it's crazy to the detail, and it's just this inner knowing or this inner intuition. And in the past, I would always second guess the intuition but it was always accurate. So now I've learned to embrace it. Let's talk just a little bit about, as women, our female intuition and our inner knowing, and how we can lean more into that.
Mm-hmm. So, because you are a woman, a feminine essence being, you have more feminine energy. So that's why it's important to spend more time in that energy to honor it. And feminine energy is intuition. That's part of the gifts of the feminine, is to have that very strong intuition. And so the more you are going to spend time in your feminine, the more you're going to be able to hear your intuition. But if you're at the beginning of the journey and you're like, I don't even know how to listen to my intuition, like, what is this thing? Feminine intuition, I don't know, do I have it? So again, it starts with awareness. And I always teach to my clients that you have two kind of voices in your head. I mean, really, you have 1,000 kind of voices, but you can put them in two different categories. You have the voices of your ego, and then the voice of your intuition. And intuition is going to express herself in three different ways. Either you're going to hear, some people hear, or you're going to see, or you're going to feel. You can also have an inner knowing, like you were talking about, but that's very connected to the feeling. So let's say you have 4 different ways really that your intuition is talking.
Sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's an inner knowing.
Yeah.
All those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can hear the voice in your head as well sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you hear it in your own voice. Some people think that, you know, you're going to hear your intuition in like the voice of God or something. No, it's your own voice. And so that's where it becomes tricky, because it's like, well, if it's my own voice, how do I know if it's my ego or really my soul talking to me? So you're going to know because it's going to talk to you in a very different way. So your ego is focused on keeping you safe. That is like the main purpose of your ego, is to keep you safe. So if you have a voice in your head that is judgmental, fear-based, that is saying something in order to keep you safe, that is thinking about the future or the past, and that is, you know, very stubborn and determined, quite aggressive sometimes as well, you know, it's your ego. Your ego is also going to repeat the same things over and over again, like a CD that is scratched. We don't listen to CDs anymore these days, but you know what I mean. Whereas your soul, your intuition is going to talk completely differently. It's going to be very much in the present moment. So it's also going to give you a suggestion. It's never going to force you to do something. You should do this. I should do that. I should have done this. No, your intuition is always going to say, what if you turned right?
What if you turned right?
Turned right. Imagine you're driving your car. What if you turned right? What if you watched this podcast, this YouTube video, or listened to this podcast episode? What if you went for a walk? Like, very interestingly, a few months ago, I was with my husband and I said, let's go for a walk around that lake. We haven't been there for a while. I feel like going there. He was like, okay. And then I actually stumbled upon a woman there and we started talking. I had met her once already and she became a client of mine. So in the moment, it didn't make any sense. That's always the thing about intuition, is that it doesn't make a lot of sense why you would do it. Also, your intuition is very much in the present moment.
It doesn't always make sense to our minds.
Yeah, exactly. But because your intuition is connected to the whole world and really the greater plan of your soul, it knows why it's telling you to do that certain thing. Like it knew that I had to go there to meet that.
It's like this thing we can't see, like a sixth sense, but we can feel. And just like, I can tell you, I mean, you may not believe I have a pen in my hand, but you know, it doesn't mean I don't have a pen in my hand. And just like when you feel something, you can't explain it because it doesn't seem to make logical sense, but it makes internal sense. And what you said earlier about the voice of God, now I am from the philosophy of believing in the creation theory. So I believe if God could create me, he could communicate with me, and that I hear his voice in my heart. And other people may believe that they're hearing their own voice. But I think that there's just a mixture of that. There's your internal voice. There's this instinct that I believe was placed in us.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to tap into that and realize that it is your protection when
Mm-hmm.
you are getting those feelings. If you are getting a feeling of foreboding about something, to pay attention to those things, because it is like a protection mechanism and you can't explain it, but it's there.
Yeah, it is there. It is there, and it's always guiding you and it's always available to you. You just need to be able to hear it and trust it. And so the way to hear it or feel it or see it and really integrate it is first by knowing how it's expressing itself. And it's always expressing itself, like I said, in that very subtle, like a whisper in the wind with suggestions, a very soft and loving way, whereas the ego is much more insisting, fear-based, and always thinking about the future and the past.
Proving,
Yeah,
um,
trying to keep you safe.
seeking recognition and
Yeah,
accolades
and being rational and logical and telling you, yeah, but what if this happens and what if that happens? Really fear-based. And so how to start trusting your intuition? Well, the only way is just to start following it. Because then you're going to have a positive experience and you're going to be like, oh, I did that. And actually, it turned out pretty good. So I guess I can trust it more. And the more you have positive experiences, the more you're just going to reinforce that trust. It's like a muscle, first time
right.
you use it
Absolutely.
weak.
Yes.
The more you use it, the more it becomes just your new normal and a new way of functioning.
Yeah, the more you're trusting the the intuition that's within you and you lean into it, you see that it is a gift, something that could take you from A to Z a lot quicker. Is that trusting those instincts, those internal instincts, versus being in our head all the time. It's
Exactly.
almost like an internal guidance system, like your GPS, and it's going to get you where you need to go.
It's exactly an inner GPS. That's also how I call it. And it's very important what you just said there, being in your head all the time. Because if you are in your head all the time, overthinking, over planning, controlling, worrying, and doing things, there's not going to be room for your intuition to come through. It might try to talk to you, but you're not going to hear it. So by creating space, by sitting in the silence, even if that silence isn't comfortable and it brings up emotion, just welcome the emotions, listen to them, because they are messengers as well. And once you've done that several times of just welcoming all of these emotions that need to come through when you're in the silence, in the space, then suddenly you're going to be able to hear your intuition much better.
And I think a lot of the time when we are in our head, we're not in flow.
Yeah,
And things like you talked about earlier, the flow, the
yeah,
ebb and flow of giving and receiving, there
yeah.
is a flow. And you cut off the flow if you're not able to receive when someone's giving. And when you're trying to force something to happen, or you want it so bad because it's in the ego, like what you were saying, you're pushing, but it isn't cooperating, it isn't working, nothing's working almost when you're in that energy. But when you let go and you surrender, which you talked about earlier, then you are trusting that, and you're having faith and belief that things are going to work out how they're supposed to. You're more in flow with I guess the universe, with your instinct, with
With the
just
cycle of life.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's super important to honor that cycle of life, because We live in a society that believes consistency is gold. And you need to show up the same way, and have your routine, and eat 3 times, always at the same time in the day. The truth is that nature is not consistent. We are not consistent, especially as women. We have cycles. We have 4 phases in each cycle, and we go through these cycles every month. Nature has 4 seasons. Why are we expecting of ourselves to show up always the same way when everything that we are seeing around us really isn't?
So it's good to just let it go and let it flow.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been so good today. Where can everybody get your book again? And tell us a little bit about your course for anyone
Yes.
wanting to get more into their feminine.
Yes. So my book, The Path of Femininity, is available everywhere on the internet, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, my website. If you actually go on my website, I also have a short quiz that is going to help you see which gifts of the feminine you already have activated inside of you and which need a little bit more help. And if after this conversation, you're really ready to call in the feminine and you feel, okay, this is my growing edge, my next move, I have a 21-day course for you. So it's 21 days where every day you're going to receive a video teaching, a meditation, energy healing, journaling prompts, some work that you can do in order to activate these 6 gifts of the feminine. Because when you have these 6 gifts activated in you, like I said, you're much more aligned to your authentic self, your purpose, and that results in making more money and having more joy and health in your life.
Love that. Love that. What is one thing or that you can leave with each woman today as just like an internal guiding chip, like to their feminine, like something that you can just say that makes them realize, oh, yes, exactly. That is the feminine.
I would invite you to have a look at what you are saying yes to, where you actually want to say no.
Perfect. Perfect. Oh, that's my let it rip for Friday. It's all about saying no instead of yes when you don't want to, and why it's so much better. I love that.
It's
so
very
much.
important because number one, it's going to help you step into more authenticity with who you are, respecting yourself. It's going to help you set boundaries, and it's going to then create space for the things that are more aligned and that you're going to be really excited to say yes to then come in your life. And so really ask yourself, what am I saying yes to where I actually want to say no? Maybe it's working with that client. Maybe it's cooking tonight. Maybe I don't really want to cook, and that's okay. You don't have to. Whatever it is, really just allow yourself to say no, and it's fine. People will still love you even if you say no. They might even love you more and respect you more.
So perfect. And I loved what you said. That was like gold, that last whole bit, because when you are saying no to what you don't want, you are saying yes to what you do want.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So good. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed
Linda.
talking with you. I loved all your beautiful insights, and I can really tell that you've done a lot of work surrounding this topic, and I think my audience will love it. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Linda.
And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. Bye, everybody.